count as a permit? Okay.
Yeah, so we can't
We're all right.
touch that.
Well, no, we're not counting, I think what he's saying is we're not counting it as impervious, we're counting it as impervious, so it doesn't trigger any changes to our calculations.
Okay. So we can remove the retail wrap and put in its place an appropriate screening or aesthetically pleasing landscape or architectural features as determined, as approved by staff.
Well, that was for the parking garage?
Yes.
That, you've gone too far because you haven't approved the exterior C of A yet. That's where that needs to be.
Okay. So we're just going to remove the wrap off the site plan. That's all we're going to do here.
And the site plan includes, in theory, a footprint the same size as what the second floor is. Okay.
Yes. Is that okay?
Those are all fine.
Okay. So it has the same footprint, so maybe we can squeeze a couple more spaces in that bad boy. All right.
And we're requiring a traffic management.
That's under the conditional use. That's the next thing. So that's my motion.
Second.
All of those in favor?
All right, I have a question.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to, I'm sorry, that all of those conditions are fine. On the report, which number are the conditions that staff is moving forward on the site plan? So I'm looking at page, well, it's not titled, page 1.
It's page 1. It's the
1 through
last
5?
5 pages of the report. If you go to the condition of approval,
So the last 5 pages. All right. So that being said, I would get some clarification and maybe some minor corrections. Number 4, under standard conditions, I think you meant to also include the sustainable bonus incentive program with a list of items under that paragraph 4, is that correct? It reads site plan, conditional land use. We also have an application for this sustainable bonus incentive program.
Don't shake your head, yes.
So that should add, we should add that.
we should add that there.
Okay. All right, and then,
And then we include the performance bond for the $111,000 of the Energy Star certification.
Okay, and that performance bond should be mentioned in performance bond should be mentioned here, not in the use, right? Because that's for the Energy Star, that's for the sustainable bonus. All right, so the sustainable bonus with $100,000 performance bond, $111,000 performance bond. So amending standard of condition of approval, I'm going to amend my motion to include that.
right, so on that, the page that I'm referring to, there are just those 5 conditions on that page, correct? Yes.
Yes.
All right, then on page 2, as to the hotel annex, I guess these are really just clarification. There are no conditions on page 2, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We're okay with an 18-foot garage entrance?
No, there are, hold on. Page 2,
There are conditions there which you've now been discussing that may not be applicable. You have dealt with through a compromise number 1, which is about the
So
setback.
number 1, so that's, so the motion covers that.
And then number 2,
Number-
the guidelines do require some kind of edge treatment.
All right, so we could talk about that. So this condition number 2 would require that we put a, well, first of all, is this intended to be on Lake Avenue, no other right of way?
Just to make it thoroughfare one.
Just Lake, okay. So I just want the board to understand it. We can do this, but what this says is we're installing a continuous hedge along the street. And what we've designed our landscaping in more of a tiered approach so that you'll see all of the landscaping in it, which is screened by the hedge. And we have a foundation planting instead. We believe that that's a better approach to landscaping, particularly with that large green
I agree, I'm not a fan of hedges.
Yeah,
If the building's gonna be set back so far and all this is gonna happen, I think the landscape plan, so I'd like to, I'll include in my motion to remove that condition.
Thank you, so that was number.
Is there an alternative condition that staff would feel more comfortable with as opposed to a continuous hedge along the right of way?
Well, you should probably include it, that, you know, that would be, since you've already approved an waiver that's really set back, that waiver would include this landscape piece that's required under the thoroughfare guidelines, that you would not have to do that, and that you accept into place the landscaping as proposed by the applicant.
I would want them to require them to do an alternative landscape plan to, I mean, they have a landscape plan, but, you know,
So would you approve that administratively?
how is their landscaping, how do you all feel their landscaping is as far as satisfying the requirement of creating that visual continuous edge? I mean, it is the tiered approach. They do have a lot of palms, which I'm not a super big fan of, but I understand that there's palms in front of the Gulfstream already, so I don't mind throwing a couple palms up there.
And then you've got the 5 palms in front of it.
Can we see the landscape plan? Is that landscape architect guy still here?
Oh, I see.
Oh.
Although we have it on our
Yeah,
There's a shade tree.
there's a shade tree. Because really, we're only talking about the frontage along Lake. Yeah, and having a big old hedge in front of your retail or to the side, I mean, where would the hedge be? What are you talking about having a
Well,
hedge?
and this is where the guidelines are a little,
adjacent to the right of way.
the guidelines are set up that we have a building frontage that's very close to the street. And because our building doesn't do that, the guidelines don't take that into account. And what its really intent is that where the building doesn't meet the street, let's say that the building is only this big, and this part is left blank. You would continue the line of the facade down the street with a hedge, a wall, or some other kind of treatment to continue the edge. Since our building doesn't meet the requirement of the guidelines, I don't really know how to apply the hedge because the hedge is supposed to be continuing the line of the building, but the building isn't where it's intended to be under the guidelines. So maybe that just has to go away.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I could think is like a little knee wall or something within the landscape, you
Well,
know.
we do have a cocoa plum, a continuous cocoa plum, and.
That's back here, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
and then green island ficus in front of it. So I mean, we do have a continual line, it's just not right, I mean, the regs say adjacent to the right of way. It's just not immediately adjacent to the right of way.
That's in the alley part, right?
No, this is.
Oh,
No,
sorry,
that's-
okay, I'm like, where are we?
Like
Okay.
Avenue.
Right
Oh,
here.
I see where
on
we're,
that.
okay.
I understand your confusion, because usually north is all.
Yeah,
So-
well, the
so-
plan's been different ways.
Cocoa plum is here, and
Yeah.
then the green island ficus is in
Right.
front of it.
I mean,
Um,
I mean, I think there would be almost, having the turf open, it would be almost allow pedestrians to kind of walk up on the grass and kind of have a little more room. I think it would make it honestly a little better than having a hedge or something there. I mean,
Street festivals, parades, you have a little area to throw down a blanket and sit and watch. It
Yeah.
makes it much more.
let's just remove the condition, I think, and,
I already did.
Okay. All right, and then as to Marie, just clarification purposes, now that we're adding the retail on the corner here, and we're going to create this entrance, or we're gonna really open this recreate this entrance to get to it, we actually are going to have two principal entrances on the annex building, that would be one or the other, so I think we comply with that, but I just want clarification.
I think we just reword it that a principal entrance of the building will face the major
Okay.
thoroughfare of Lake
That's
Avenue.
great, okay, I think that's perfect. All right,
Based on all that we talked about, we've actually dealt with number 4.
we dealt with 4, that's what I thought, okay, good. No problem, 5, no problem, 6.
so we can strike 4, right?
Well, I think we've.
4's been
or-
messy, you can leave it.
Oh, we can leave it, okay, because they're consistent with it.
All right, now, on 7, should it have read staff, so if we can talk a little bit about deliveries. You have staff recommends that delivery trucks be limited to a 6-wheel delivery, meaning
In the alley.
in the alley.
Because your loading dock is there, and if you see how your design is, if you have a truck being bigger than that, one, you're gonna have a very difficult time turning into the alley. And two, it will be actually extending across the
Okay,
alley,
that's fine.
impeding you.
No, that's fine, clarify,
Can we clarify in the alley,
in the alley. Okay.
add in the alley? On that, even though it's evident, it's, I think it.
And so we need to talk about the time.
And as to number 11, we don't intend to, we intend to have normal delivery hours for this, so I think that is fine.
What are normal delivery
Yeah,
hours?
right. Let's put it there.
All right, what are normal, They asked a good question, I have no idea.
Like between 8 and 5?
Yeah,
8 to 5, 7 to 5.
Yeah,
so
it is
something
7 to
about
5,
7 to
that's
5.
right, yeah.
I'd say 7 to 5.
7 to 5.
Is that okay? Is that enforceable code-wise? Are you comfortable with that, staff? 7 a.m. to 5 p.m.? Is there a
So
code?
if they don't meet it, I'm sure I'm gonna get a complaint from somebody, and we'll deal with code compliance that way. That's in the same department.
Is there some,
The city
is there
picks up
code
the
require,
dumpsters at
is there
6.
code regulation for delivery hour limitations or any guidance in the code relating to this? No.
No, there's not.
Because you don't want peak hour, and you beyond 5, you don't want trucks there. It's
Not at all.
And we don't either, particularly with a hotel, most check-in is in the afternoon, so you don't really want that.
Okay, 7 to
All right,
5.
and then under the water utility section, I think we dealt with C, because I think you mentioned that at the beginning of your presentation on the previous page, that they were Public Works review approved.
Yes, and that's going to really be covered in a separate item we're going to have to work out with you on the 2 easements.
Okay, fine.
They don't generally support the pavers, but in deference of allowing the pavers or putting some onus on you about maintenance and among a number of other things.
Okay,
That will be covered in an amendment to the existing easement and the creation of another one.
all right, and
So now we'll have a paver management plan in the easement amendment, so it's not in the purview of the site plan. We don't have to make an amendment for your management of your pavers and maintenance of those.
Well, I think that what could be included here is just terminology that the existing easement and a new easement be drafted to address the concerns of the 3 utilities, public services, water, sewer, and electric. That won't come back to you, but it will end up going to the city commission for approval.
Okay, so then that's actually gonna be
you mean the
number
easement.
3.
What did I say?
That's gonna be a number
I think just
3,
the
right?
review goes back to city, you're just talking about the easement.
Yes.
Okay, and so then you're also talking about number 7 on page 5, then, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, and I think that would be it on
Hold on.
site.
Where's the easement condition going? Is it should be, because it's pavers in the alley over water and sewer mains are preferred. Well, that's saying that the gravity.
Well, there's another one under public services that speaks prior to the issuance of the CO alley improvements, including 1 mil. That will be adjusted in accordance with this discussion and an agreement where easements will be required.
Are we striking C? Are we striking C and replacing it with the easement,
Well, actually, what I'm gonna do is, that's just a general statement. Because we didn't have, and I just realized this, we didn't have the comments in time from the electric utility, there should be a separate set of conditions at the end that deal with utility. The utility is gonna want an easement to access the transformers. That is a separate instrument than the easement that covers the abandonment of the alley, and is separate from the easement that actually covers where the alley isn't abandoned. So there probably needs to be language, like I mentioned earlier, is that appropriate easement documents to deal with the concerns of the 3 entities involved, public services, electric utility, and water sewer utility, shall be worked out with the applicant and brought forward for approval to the city commission.
Well,
Okay.
you mean the easements will be brought forward?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so the condition is, okay, so then the condition should be amended under,
Probably under 7, number 7, under the public services part.
Or it could be a standalone separate section that's called,
I think it should be a
utility and public
standalone.
service easements.
Because public services 7 is like priority additions of the
Well, that should be
CO.
stricken then.
Alleyway improvements consisting of 1 inch
That,
shall be constructed limits on the entire alleyway.
or you can add on 7 unless otherwise worked out, because it's staff and utility department.
Okay, because that has to do with all of, but that's the alleyway easements. So you're talking about all the alleyway easements. So why don't we, so you're saying replace 7 with the condition that William just read into the record?
Yes.
That would
Okay.
be a separate item for
Okay.
alleyway easements.
All right. All right, so a separate item will go forward to the city commission regarding the alleyway easements, and we'll address all the things that staff would like them to address and all of their feelings
The
about
staff
that.
of public services, water, sewer utility, and electric utility.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So moved.
Got it. All right, that's good for me on the second.
All right, so I'll make a motion to make all those changes, to amend my motion as read into the record.
You're good with it?
Second.
All right.
I would never disagree.
Are we gonna,
Before you vote, do you want to hear any public comment on the motion?
This is a quasi judicial public hearing. You've taken public comment, the public hearing is closed, you've now made your motion, you're not obligated to have an additional round of public hearing on this particular motion. You may do it, but you're not obligated to.
we're gonna address the, I'm still thinking that 18 feet, are you comfortable with 18 feet opening on the garage, south facing residential on the First Avenue side?
Let's deal with that when we get to the exterior elevation under the C of A from the construction.
Okay, is there anything else that we, on this one?
I'm sure there is, but I can't think of it right now, sorry.
Well,
This is a redundant question, but this includes the easement for the transformer.
That was covered under the last condition that we looked at.
Just making sure.
And what about the legality of the colonnade? Do we, is that a part of this, or what?
No, that's an existing condition.
What now?
The colonnade that's already in the public right of way.
Right. And
Well, that was something that I just walked through, that the applicant has agreed to work with us to draft the appropriate easement vehicle that will go to the city commission to deal with that issue. That could be,
so that they're responsible for.
I think it would behoove them to have something in writing that's formalized and it just floating around in the nebulous world that it is right now. And so I've talked to Ms. Miskell about it, and we were gonna work on that and take it to the city commission.
Okay. Then anything else that you think, you haven't thought of?
I'd like to call the question.
Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. We got through 1 of 7. It's 10:25. This is,
Let's do it.
okay, we'll continue. I don't know that it's going to get any easier.
So we're on this, sir, we're on the conditional use now, right? Is that the next on the agenda?
Yes.
All right, so I think we have to open public comment on the,
Well, Mr. Chair, no, Mr. Chair, we are now on a second agenda item.
Yes.
It is a separate quasi judicial hearing. What I would recommend, per your bylaws and per the city's code, is that if staff and or the applicant have anything additional to add that they haven't already said as it relates to these succeeding items, they be given the opportunity to do so. You then are obligated to, again, it's a public hearing, you have public comment. Obviously, if folks have already made their comment, you are able to also advise that public comment given on the other items can be considered in this item, but if folks want to get up again, they certainly can. And at that point, you can have your discussion, close the public hearing, and make a motion.
We will consider,
Do we need a motion for the public hearing, for the public comment to be considered for this, for all the hearings?
No,
No, okay.
and I wouldn't recommend that unless somebody just wants to get up and say, I made my comments earlier, please
So we're going
Try to speed it
we're
up.
considering HRPB project number 15-005-00013, conditional use permit to allow for the renovation and redevelopment expansion of the historic Gulfstream Hotel and accessory use within the downtown zoning district. Staff, you
We have discussed some of the conditions you would like. You know, we don't have very much information necessary to attach it, but one would be definitely requirement for a traffic management plan. To definitely include where overflow parking will be accommodated during special events or, I guess, seasonally high occupation of the hotel. What would be the hours of operation of exterior activities, specifically the pool deck and the rooftop lounge bar, as they may have an impact on the adjacent neighborhood and neighbors. Some of the things you were bringing up, Chairman, about the dumpster and how it's accessed and sealed and that sort of thing, would be appropriate in the conditional use section of this. One of the conditions that will have to be covered here is that due to the way that the garage is designed and proposed, it will be valet only for the second floor and top. That should be covered here, even though it's been committed to by the applicant, it should be covered as a condition of conditional land use. There's some standard ones that are already covered in the staff report that the applicant has addressed in an appropriate manner on how they deal with that. And I can't think of anything else right now, but maybe something will hit me in the head and then I'm out with something else. Right now, big major concerns from the conditional land use section.
And just to clarify, I presume staff's position is that your previous report, your staff report, your written report, as well as your comments earlier are part of the record for this particular?
Yes, I covered that when I first started. All 7 are part of the record. And
Okay,
yes.
just to clarify.
What are the additional conditions of approval? Because we just approved most of the ones that seem to be in the packet for the conditional use with regards to the site plan. So what additional ones, other than the ones that you verbally mentioned, would you like to apply to this? Specifically the conditional use? Because it seems the bulk of them were in
we still have the standard conditions of approval would also be applicable to the conditional use as well.
okay. All right. So it's those 5 standard?
And we do need to amend one of the conditions, number 2. It needs to refer to you as the Historic Resource Preservation Board, not the Planning and Zoning Board.
So you're looking for a traffic management plan. Now, in this traffic management plan, you're gonna get this plan, Scott, and then what happens as a result? What action do you wanna take as a result of the information that you will gain from the applicant, and seeing this? Because we've approved the site plan, so we have an approved site plan. So how are we, is this going to give us additional information as far as hours of operation, of valet? I mean, what is this, what are you gonna do with that information and what do you need that for?
From a professional standpoint, in the perfect world, we would have already had that to understand how the whole site is going to operate. I believe they could get, the site plan approval would not preclude making adjustments due to the information that's provided in a traffic management plan. There's a lot about the actual physical operation of this that we don't know. I don't have it, so I can't really speculate on what might come out of a traffic management plan, but based on the number of comments I've gotten from the public and the questions I've gotten from board members on how is the traffic going to be managed, when are going to be the peak generation hours, what happens to overflow, where do employees park, all of that.
And one-way and two-way traffic in the same alley.
this can't go to the, obviously in my mind, this can't go to the city commission until we have that traffic
It
management.
doesn't go to the city commission, this is the
Okay,
final
this
meeting.
is the final, so, all
That's
right.
why we can't.
Yeah, to me, this is huge, you know, from the beginning, this whole thing, I think everything looks great, but I really,
We are,
we're so short on parking in the city to begin with, and that area is so congested, and it's not like there's a million extra places that people are gonna be able to park. And I'm assuming that your restaurant and bars and everything else are gonna be thriving, and there's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna need a place to park.
Okay, so let's talk about the requirements, because we have to remember, and I know a lot of
You've
you
already
mentioned
stated.
it, we are in an urban area.
Right.
We are in your most intense urban area in the city. We are in the downtown mixed use area.
it doesn't solve the problem.
Well, but in fact, you know, and it's hard for us to understand it, but every city grasps this issue and many have responded in the opposite direction of what we're talking about tonight, because the more parking you create, the more cars come downtown, the fewer people walk. So the reality is it's an urban area. People are going to either need to get used to traffic or walk, or ride their bikes or find alternative means, or in fact, implement transit programs. That's what downtown areas do. It's an urban
I
area.
agree with you on that, but if you guys were hosting like a wedding, comes to my mind, people that are coming in from out of town, that besides for maybe the hotel being full, but you know, to have a large number of people that are showing up for an event, where are they gonna park?
Just, you're making some good points, and when you do a two-story garage, it's also very simple to make it a little bit, we're doing this in other projects in West Palm Beach where we go down just a little bit, you get the second level and you get a rooftop. You can get a third level within a two-story design. It doesn't have to look like a three-story building. So,
Yeah, you're right.
okay, so, well, even making it a little bit taller, you can still do that, and you can still give it a nice facade. If you go to places like Savannah and Charleston, they do that, and those are very intense historic districts. And they have ways of dealing with that. With design, you can do that.
With 3 floors.
Or if there's a, right, if you need the 3 floors, you know, if the
I
traffic
mean, we have 3
management.
levels now, right?
Well, the rooftop.
William, we're talking about 3 levels right now, correct?
Because of the rooftop.
There's 2 levels with rooftop
With the
parking.
rooftop.
Rooftop parking
So that's
already.
3 places to park.
I'd like to address the potential parking issues and the amenities of what a hotel really drives. Because we do operate hotels in urban downtowns, and hotels drive, it's very, very little traffic as far as vehicle traffic, because most people come to a hotel, especially a destination hotel, and they stay there, especially in the downtown district. It's one of the reasons why a hotel in the downtown district is so desirable, because your hotel guests, if you have a downtown, you have a beach, and you have golfing, and you have everything within walking distance, generally don't get in the car and drive. We do operate hotels in other hotels in downtown districts, some of them with almost no parking, other than public parking, and we don't have issues. We don't want to operate a hotel that's going to be deficient in parking